Yeah, but Lindsay, what did you think? What was something you liked about the episode?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it was a really interesting episode. Like, there are definitely high points and low points. I mean, I don't know if you want to get into it yet, but definitely the big thing for me was just leaving a little space to talk about all the different characters and like their grief and how that grief was really the main source of conflict and the main theme in the show.
Yeah.
So I appreciate the showrunners for being willing to go there and showing grief as it shows up for all of these different characters, from Wanda to Monica to
And
even Hayward.
too, right? Yeah.
And the townies.
And I'd say Agatha too. Like, I expect there to be some maybe Agatha grief processing happening eventually. I mean, we'll have to see.
She killed her whole coven and her mom, right? So
yeah, she's like, I just want to be good. Yeah, I would assume that would be traumatic.
Well,
so.
Monica, or you already said Monica, didn't you?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. No, and I'm glad you brought that up too, because like it's something that you mentioned a few weeks ago while we were watching the show, and I've been wanting to touch on it, but like it's just become, I think it's just become the thing that has not been cheapened most in the show. Like it's just, whatever things are in there that we nitpick, there has always been a strong theme of grief for all these characters. And that's been what's, the common thread through everybody, just about, with the exception of crappy Darcy. But you know what I mean? And to an extent, Jimmy Woo.
They're there for comic relief,
grief. She gives us grief.
She does give us grief. Yeah.
Then we have to process our grief.
But yeah, we are watching all these other characters go through something really emotional, but all this extra stuff's always happening. So it's hard to like focus on it. And so I was excited that you wanted to talk about that, because I'm kind of afraid that next week might derail that conversation, right? Because this was the penultimate episode. Next week is going to be the finale of this season, or maybe the show. We don't know for sure. But they got a lot to wrap up, regardless of if there's an Ultron, or if there's a Grim Reaper or a Mephisto or anything else other than Agatha. Dear God, please. It's going to be busy next week, so this week is the last perfect time to talk about all the sad that went in there,
One of the things I really appreciate about this, before Lindsay starts discussing her points, is what we were talking about last week with Nas. The fact that like when Marvel starts touching on grief or any kind of sensitive or sad subject, they undercut it with like a dick and fart joke or something like that. Not necessarily a dick joke, but definitely a fart joke, or like some kind of stupid joke. And this one doesn't do that.
Yeah, exactly.
That's fantastic.
They definitely gave time for everything. Everything had its space to give its own weight to, from Wanda's flashbacks as a kid, to her transformation scenes, to her seeing Vision for the first time after he died. Like everything was allowed to breathe, and I don't necessarily think you could get that type of minutia in a movie. So it was nice.
The only thing I don't think was allowed to breathe was the amount of baggage that they piled onto her first trauma. That was a lot, dude. It was a lot. It was like,
yeah, I feel like they really just focused on like showing you all of the trauma that she's experienced, but they're not really going through the processing part of it and how you come out on the other side of grief. Because I think what they're trying to do with the theme is talk about, how grief can lead into something positive, and maybe it can lead into acceptance at the end. But they've kind of spent so much time on the trauma that we're really not giving her enough space to really process things.
Yeah.
Although I don't know if y'all have seen like any of the Reddit threads about like the stages of grief. There's like a Reddit or a theory.
Yeah, the first two episodes are denial, and then the second one is bargaining, right?
Yeah, it's like denial, bargaining, anger, depression was the last one, the Modern Family one. And then so now supposedly we're going into acceptance now.
Yeah.
But I haven't seen that yet. It's more just making everyone aware of the trauma that she's experienced, but
Well,
she's not working through it yet.
Yeah,
and I was really hoping that they would kind of go a little bit more into the parallel grief between Monica and Wanda. And like, can that relationship between the two of us, because they obviously have, or two of them, because they obviously have some connection since she keeps trying to pull Monica into her world. Like, how are they supposed to kind of release each other from this pain? And I feel like there's not really space to do that at this point.
No.
So that's a little disappointing.
Unless the last episode is 3 hours long, which Ricky's hoping for.
Maybe.